So today's video we're going to look at our little stitch samplers and I'm going to show you how to embellish them with some sequins. Hi everyone, Sarah and Ginger Cat here from Sarah Homfray Embroidery. We haven't worked on our stitch samplers for a while, so I thought it was time we did another video. So we've been doing quite a lot of stitches. If you're not familiar with this and you haven't joined in yet, and haven't seen this, we're doing some little samplers and we're just trying out lots of different embroidery stitches and we're practicing them on here so we can then go and work them on our other projects. And I've got a version in your hand and then a version that we're also doing on the frame, which you can't see because it's behind Ginger Cat. It'll probably move in a minute, so you get to have a look in a minute. So if you want to join in with that, you want to start at the beginning and start to learn lots of different embroidery stitches, I'll put the playlist for that up at the end of this video. So I'm going to show you on my sampler in the frame, then we'll look at the handheld version, and then I've got a few pieces as well with some sequins on to show you how you can incorporate those into your embroidery projects. So I'll just show you some sequins first and the materials that we're going to use, and then we can get straight on. Now sequins come in lots of different shapes and sizes, but basically what they are is they're little stamped shapes with a hole in the middle, and you can get them in metal or in plastic, and they can come in lots of different sizes, they come in lots of different shapes, lots of different finishes, but I've got a few here just to show you. So I've got some green ones and some pink ones that I'm going to use, and this is just a mixed pack, so you can just see this is probably what we normally use to these little round ones with the hole in the middle, and we can stitch them down onto something, and just really lovely way of adding a little bit of sparkle to your embroidery and a little bit of dimension to your embroidery. So loads of different shapes, round ones, small ones, flat ones, faceted ones, little flower shaped ones, or even got leaf shaped ones. There's loads of little different shapes that I've got going on there, so I'm going to use a few and show you how to put them down, because there's only a few ways that you can put the same ones down. And I've also got a few beads as well, because we're going to do a version that includes beads. Beads go really well with sequins, so I'll just show you methods using the beads as well. So I'll just go over the threads quickly as well. There's lots of different kinds of threads you can use for this. Now because the sequins are stamped, they can be a little bit sharp where the hole is, so you don't want to use a thread that's going to break with that. So a normal embroidery thread you can use to put sequins down with, but it might just wear through it a little bit. So I've got some alternatives for you. Just a normal sewing cotton is really great. So this is a Gutterman sew all thread, just a good quality sewing thread. This is 100% polyester. These are really strong threads, and that's really nice for sewing down your sequins and your beads as well. You can use it for beads too, and we will use single and double. I'll explain when we use which one. So just a normal sewing thread, really good, can match the colour of your sequins if they're all the same colour. The different colours, we'll talk about that as well. I've just got some white one there as well, and you could also try, this is a invisible thread. Obviously it's a little bit harder to use because it's invisible, so it's also a little bit springy, so it's great if you got your sequins that are different colours. So we're going to match the thread because we're going to use green sequins. If your sequins are all different colours, you're not going to change your thread every time you change your colour. So you could try this invisible one and you won't see that stitch at all. It's a little bit springy to use. It does take a bit of practice to use that, but that is an alternative as well. And this is an actual beading thread, this version. This make is Nymo thread. It's a synthetic thread and it doesn't have a twist in it. And this is really good if you want to use lots of beads in your works, as it's really strong thread, but it works for sequins as well. It's a little bit thicker than the normal sewing thread, I think, but if you want to use the combination of sequins and beads, this one works really well, and it gets comes in lots of different colours, so you can match that to your sequin as well. So I'm going to show you how to sew them down. I'm just going to move the cat so that you can see on the front camera what I'm doing with my hands, and he's right in the way. Do you want to go and sit on Jonathan? It's not really a question. That's it, just move along a bit, buddy. There we go. No. It's going to stand right in the way. Go on. Now you can see what I'm doing clearly. He's alright if anybody's worried about him. He's on Jonathan's lap, who's behind the camera today, so he'll be quite happy there. Don't worry. So I'm going to use my Gutterman sew all thread for this, and I'm going to use these green, oh, I nearly threw them all over the floor, these green sequins here. So I've just matched my thread to my sequins, and I'm going to show you lots of different ways to put them down. So you want this to be really secure. If you've ever bought any clothing or any cushions, anything, it's always the sequins and the beads that fall off first. So you want it to be really secure. So I'm actually going to do a couple of little stitches, and the sequin will sit on the top of this. so we won't see it, so it's worth just a few little securing stitches. Then I'm going to choose a sequin. Which one should we choose? Let's go with a nice big one so you can see what I'm doing. And you can come right up in the middle of the sequin. So that's quite good if you want to place it in the right place. I want my sequin there, your thread can just come right up in the middle. And all I'm going to do initially is just do one little stitch over it. So I come up in the middle and I'm going down at one side. Now you can just leave it with one stitch and it just poke up a little bit. If you pull that down, it shouldn't come off the fabric, but it will just poke up a little bit. So that's just one stitch, sequin with one stitch. So let's thread another one on. Now we're going to put 2 stitches down, so a little bit more secure with 2 stitches. If you want a bit of texture, you wanted to create an effect, the single stitch is a really good way of doing that because it does just stand up a little bit. You could layer them on top of each other. But if you want a nice secure one, just a little stitch over each side. So I've come up in the middle, down over the edge, down on the edge and back down in the middle, and that's really secure. So do your stitches opposite each other. Let's find another one. So I'm going to come back up in the middle. If you've got a really large sequin and you want a bit of extra security, or you want to make a nice detail out of your stitching, you can put more stitches on. So you could pick a contrasting colour if you wanted to, so that the thread showed up. And I'm going to come up on the outside. I find it easier to come on the outside, there's more space, and go down in the middle. You can see clearly rather than try and find where the hole is underneath. So I'm going to do a little sort of Y shape with this now. And then I'm going to do a 3rd stitch in there, really extra security. So if one of your stitches breaks, you've still got another 2 stitches holding it, and you can make a little pattern with that. You could keep going if you want to. Let's put another one in there and do 5. So if that was a contrasting colour, that would show up really nicely as a little kind of star on there. So you can do them like that. You can do a row of sequins as well. So if you want to make a long line of them, they look really nice down the middle of things, and I'll show you some samples of that in a second. So I'm just going back to those 2 stitches, one on either side like so, and I'm just going to put the next sequin next to it and come up at the end of that one. And go down in the middle and then put my 2nd stitch in there and just do a row of those. Up at the end of that sequin, they do bounce around a little bit. I'm doing mine on a frame, so I've got both hands free. It is easier to have 2 hands free, so if you can work in a frame, it will help you a little bit. So you can make a row of them, and then you can also overlap them as well. So I'm going to put one down first. I'm going to do my stitch this way. So that's the opposite to the way that I first did it, but the next sequin is going to go over the top, and we're going to make our stitches invisible. So that one will sit there. So it overlaps it, so it just reaches the whole of that one. And then I'm going to come up at the end of that sequin and down in the middle. And I'm going to do the same with another one. Let's find what colour should we do? Let's go back to that colour. So you just overlap the sequin so it meets the whole of the previous one. Come up at the end and down over it, and each sequin is going to cover the stitch of the previous one, so you don't see any of the stitches. Oh, that one's a bit small. A little bit, I can't pick them up. A little bit fiddly to pick up. So if I hold it in place up at the end down in the middle. So they're really easy to put on. There's lots of different ways to do depending on what purpose you want. So that's just sequins on its own. Let's have a look at putting sequins down with a bead. Okay, so I've swapped colour now. I've gone to my pink, and what I've done this time is I've actually doubled my sewing thread up. I've put it through the needle and I've pulled it to the same length, tied a knot in the end, so I've got a double thickness thread. You can see that there. We're going to use the beads now, so you're not going to actually see the thread that you're sewing it down with, so it's better to double it because it's a little bit stronger. We're not going to see that. So I'll show you what I'm going to do now with the bead. So I've got this different sequin here. It's a sort of faceted one as it actually comes up at the side. You can see that's not a completely flat one like I used before. It comes up in like a little cup. So I'm going to put that on exactly the same way. So I'm going to go up the middle there. I'm going to use a little bead to hold that down. So I've got a little green one here so you can see what I'm doing. Now you do need to make sure your needle goes through the bead. Check that first. So you're going to need a fairly small needle. So I've come up through the sequin, I've put my bead on, and I'm going to go back down through the sequin. So it goes around the bead and the bead will hold it. Make sure you pull both threads like so. So let's do one with a different one. So this one's a bit more of a cup shape, that one's a bit more three-dimensional, but exactly the same. So thread comes up where you want the sequin to sit, thread it on the sequin. Put the pink bead on this one. We miss out the bead and we go back down that sequin. And the bead will hold the sequin in place. You have to make sure your beads are not too small or they go straight through the hole in the sequin and the sequin will fall off. So just make sure your beads are big enough. And then the other thing you can do is you can layer these as well, so you can get a bigger sequin. So it's quite a nice little flower one here. And then we can just start layering them. We can put sequins on top of sequins. Do you know what? I'm going to put a green one in there, I think. A green one on top, and then we can get a really tiny pink one. You can just layer those sequins up and have lots of layers of them, and then we'll put a pink bead in the middle. In exactly the same way as before. Miss out all of the sequins, but you go back down the middle of all of them. Pull it really tight and finish it securely on the back so that that doesn't come undone. So I've just turned it over on the back because you need to finish this really securely so the beads don't come off and the sequin doesn't fall off. So that's where my last one was. That's where my last sequin was. I'm just going over a couple of times just through those stitches and through that backing fabric, just to make a really secure finish, just to make sure they don't fall off. So that really is all there is to it. Let me show you on the handheld version. I've just done it on this because it's easier for me to film, but these are lovely to do in your hand as well. Absolutely fine. So this is the sequence of them. So there's the single one on its own with one stitch, single sequin with 2 stitches, single sequin with 3 stitches. Then there's the row of them together with the 2 stitches. Then we've got them overlapping so that you can't see those stitches. And then I've got a couple there where I've layered the sequins and I put them down with a bead. Got a couple more down here. Really lovely just to embellish your little samplers with, add that bit of sparkle. So just a little group here of the sequins with the beads. So these are just single ones here. Then I've started to add in extra sequins here. This one's got 1, 2, 3 sequins and a bead. And then you've got a little decorative sequin there. It's like a little flower with another smaller bead, sequin and a bead on top. And just by changing the size of the sequins and the colours, you can get all sorts of lovely effects with them. And then a little bit more over here. Again, just putting them down singly. Put 2 down on top of each other with the single stitch as well. I didn't show you that one. You can do that as well. And then there's the layers you can't see. And then again, just a different shape sequin. They come in all shapes and sizes. You'll see a few more in a second. But you can just put them down the same way. So the hole is in the middle. I've just come up each side of the star down into the middle, made that little decorative stitch with it to hold my sequin on. So let's have a look at a couple of pieces and how you can put these in your embroideries. So I do just want to mention, if you want to have a go at putting some sequins on your samplers, I have got these packs in the shop and I've put some beads in there as well, so you can do that method with the beads. So I've got some different colour sets. I've got some green, some orange and green, blue ones, and then I've got pink and sort of peachy, and these beautiful teal and blue colours, and some purple ones as well. And if I can find any others, I'll put them in the shop as well, so you can pop over to the shop and check those out. The link's in the description below this video. If you just want to have a pack and try it out, there's lots of different sizes and different shapes and different colours in there, so that's great for you just to have a go with your sequins. So let me show you a few of those pieces. So this was a little sampler I made on my apprenticeship when I was learning my embroidery trade with the Royal School of Needlework, and I made a little bead and sequin sampler. So I just pulled this out and thought I would show you this. It's quite nice to see it again. So here's the single back stitch, the double back stitch here. I've got my overlapping sequins here, but this is with the stitch showing, which makes a kind of row stitching down the middle that can be really nice. And then I've got some single ones here. These are sort of leaf shapes with some little group of beads. The hole is at the end of the leaf shape, and I've just put 3 beads to hold that down. There's another hole at that end and stitch that down there, so we can make a sort of decoration out of it. And then if I just show you this as well, this has got obviously beads on it as well, but there's some sequins in here. So I've just used the sequin and the little bead to make some little red flowers. And again, those petal shaped ones gone down in a big spiral to make a huge big flower, and some beads in the centre to make the centre. So they mix with beads really, really nicely. So I just thought I would show you that. This was another one that I made. I think I did this one for a class, but on a similar sort of theme, using the same techniques. I've got lots of sequins over here. So there's a single stitch up here, there's the 2 sequins and a bead here. I made those into little flowers here. There's some square ones here behind here to make some sort of leaves, a big leaf one here as well, and some more samples down the side. So just trying out the little samples and then making a little image out of them just to see what you can do with them. So this is another piece I made for a class, but just want to show you how you can incorporate it with stitches and with other elements now. So I've got my little felt butterfly here, and I've just decorated him with some sequins and some beads. So there's that row with the stitch showing. Makes quite a nice effect to have the stitches showing in that instance. I've got the single ones on here and the sequins with the beads in the middle here. So all of the types that I've shown you are on that one there. There's a couple of little hearts, a little row of them here. You can see those against the purple. Little hearts there. What else have we got? So we've got some decorative ones over here as well. So just use that stitch to enhance the design. If you're going to see the stitch, make it a decorative part of it and use a nice colour that shows up. And I've got these lovely little butterfly ones as well that I found. So do have a good look around. You can find lots of really interesting different shaped sequins. This was a little design I did on the channel recently. There's a video on how to do these little flowers and template on the website as well that you can download for free from the free stuff page of the website. So just to show you the centres of these, they've got the sequins in the centre. So really lovely with a different kind of a fabric. So this felt is very matte sort of in its texture and feel as well. It's very different, and then a little bit of sparkly sequins just to highlight the centre of them. So go really lovely with other materials. And I've just put some different ones in the middle, and large ones and a flower one. That's a kind of half cross between a bead and a sequin, I suppose. Kind of flat with 2 holes in it. And then again there, a pretty sequin with one on top and a bead on top. So you can just add them just to sort of add a little detail. You don't need to cover something. It doesn't need to be really blingy with your sequins. You can just add little bits here and there just to make it pop out. And if you want to have a go at these flowers, as I mentioned, the free design is on the website as well. And we've also got the felt packs as well in the shop if you want to do this particular flower, but you can use these for lots of different projects as well. And we've got another set as well in another colour, so do go and check those out if you like the look of this flower project. And just want to mention one more thing as well. If you're doing gold work, if you've heard of the gold work embroidery technique, you will have come across these. So these are called spangles. They're very similar to sequins, but they're made in a different way. So they look like sequins. They've got a hole, they're round and a hole in the middle, but they're made with a tube, and the tube is bent round to a horseshoe shape and it's stamped flat. So they are slightly different construction, but you can put them down the same way. And these are different sizes as well. And I've just used a gold thread to put these down, and just literally matched the thread to it and used a gold thread with the gold spangles and put 2 stitches to hold them in place. These are a little bit sharper than normal sequins, so if you want to use a piece of beeswax, and just run your thread through the beeswax first, that will just protect it a bit from the sharp edge of the spangle. So I just wanted to mention those just in case you've come across those as well. So I hope you're inspired to add a little bit of sparkle to your work with that. Don't forget we've got the sequins in the shop. Well, they last once they're gone. I don't have any more of those, so do get in quick with that. We've got the felt as well if you want to try the flowers. And if you want to get involved in this stitch sampler project, you can see the whole playlist for that up here. Lots of different stitches on there, right from the very easiest at the beginning. We go through them, we add them onto the sampler, so do check that one out if you want to join in. I hope you've enjoyed this. Give it a thumbs up if you had. I'll see you next time.